Hey YouTube and legit YuGiOh readers, this is Matty's Day 12 and I'm going to come to you guys today with a prophecy deck profile and kind of an overview. I'm going to talk about the archetype and what it does and my personal preference on some of the cards that I've chosen as opposed to others. Alright, so let's get into my deck profile to begin with. I decided to run the World of Prophecy build. Now, this card, when it is special summoned by the effect of a Prophecy card or a Spellbook card, you get to add 2 Spellbooks from your graveyard to your hand. So you get an immediate +2. And then, on a separate effect, you can reveal 4 Spellbooks from your hand to destroy every card on the field except for itself. Board wipes are extremely good in this game, very unfair in the way that they work. Being able to clear your opponent's board and then get to push with a monster that's 2900 attack just seems just so unfair. And then your ability to summon it rather easily with Temperance of the Prophecy, or Temperance of Prophecy. It almost seems unfair the way that works also. It does make for some inconsistent hands from time to time, because if you get World in hand, you have no real way of summoning it other than just 2-tributing it out. Which I guess isn't horrible, except for the fact that you don't play a lot of monsters in your deck to begin with. So being able to get into a situation to 2-tribute it out is not really that easy. So you play a couple dead cards in the deck, but you play Temperance because not only can Temperance get the World for you and give you the opportunity to clear the board, it also gives you the opportunity to summon High Priestess of Prophecy, who is your Dark Armed Dragon of sorts. But if you are not playing the World and playing Temperance, then you're more than likely playing the Justice of Prophecy build. And with the Justice of Prophecy, what you end up doing is the same requirement as Temperance. With Justice, once it's on board, all you have to do is activate a Spellbook card. Same thing with Temperance, except Temperance you get to tribute during your main phase to grab one of your 2 boss monsters. Justice adds during the end phase. You banish this and you get to add a Spellbook card and a level 7 or higher, I believe it's level 7, I'm sorry, it's level 5. Level 5 or higher spellcaster to your hand, light or dark spellcaster to your hand. So you get a +1 off of its effect. And where Temperance, you actually stay even on its effect. But where these 2 cards become the major difference in these 2 cards, and the reason that I've gone with Temperance instead of Justice, is because of Tower. Spellbook Tower, you have to have a spellcaster on board or a spellcaster in your grave in order to resolve its effect to get your additional draws during your standby phase. Justice banishes itself, which doesn't allow you to set up for your additional draw, which is where this deck really gets rolling, and you're able to gain so much advantage through the additional draw phases, if you would, that the Tower gives you. Justice, when you banish it, doesn't put the monster in the grave. Temperance, you tribute the monster to the grave, so it helps you out a little bit more in being able to play the Tower. One thing that you have to keep in mind, though, you're running very few monsters, and you want all of those monsters to be spellcasters, because you have Spellbook cards that require you to have spellcaster monsters on board, like Fate and Masters, in order to activate their effects. So all the monsters you put on board need to be spellcaster monsters. Now, I'm starting this format off, even though the January 1st format, even though I don't know that this is going to be the best option, I'm starting it off with Triple Kaiku. Triple Kaiku was extremely important in the last 2 formats because you wanted to stop the Dragon Ruler player, you wanted to stop the removal game, and Kaiku did that, and he also allowed you to remove the other smaller dragons that they would have been using to bring out their bigger dragons. So you ate up their fuel, and then when they did answer Kaiku, you were then able to stop their plays as much because they didn't have as many resources to use to bring them out. However, I'm afraid that the game is going to change just a little bit, where back row is going to become a little bit more important than what it was before. So Kaiku may not be the best spellcaster to use. Breaker the Magical Warrior, with my sweet misprint with no name, Breaker the Magical Warrior may become a lot more important coming this next format. So what he does is, he's a spellcaster. He comes out at 1600, and then he gains a token when he is summoned. That token is a 300 attack boost, making him 1900. And you contribute that token to destroy a back row spell or trap on the field. So the extra spell and trap removal could become more important, especially in a situation where you don't always want to cut some of the things that you're running as far as your spell cards are concerned in order to run Mystical Space Typhoons. This guy gives you that Mystical Space Typhoon option, and he's a spellcaster, which is eventually going to make it to the graveyard, which is going to make your tower live. So Breaker could be an option that's going to make its way in over the Kaiku. However, right now I'm going to choose to play Kaiku, mainly because there are people in my area, my local, that are getting on the Chaos Dragon kick and are wanting to play Chaos Dragons right now. So I really feel like I personally am going to need Kaiku in my meta in my area right now more than the spell and trap removal. A couple other spellcasters that I wanted to talk about is Madolche Mageline and Tsukiyomi. I feel like these are cards that could both see their way back into these decks. Tsukiyomi, one thing that you can do with it is you can flip your Magician back face down. Excuse me. You can flip your Magician back face down and get to abuse your Magician's effect and be able to flip him and search for more and search for more and search for more, which is cool. It's also a possible beater out to some of the stuff that your opponent would summon. That could be a problem. You just summon this, flip it face down, and then you can try to run it over and whatnot. I mean, it's not a great card, I don't feel. It came back from the ban list, and it's kind of made its way back up, and I feel like it's going to be back at 3 soon, because it's really not that great in what it does. Flipping the monster's face down is not entirely broken anymore, especially when it works on a mechanic like this, like the Spirit Monster, where you summon it and it has to flip something, and then it's going to bounce back. And that's part of my issue with this, and part of my issue with Madolche Mageline. Mageline you're going to summon, and it's going to add another Mageline to hand, so it's going to gain you advantage, kind of like a Stratos play and everything. However, my issue with the Mageline play is once the Mageline dies, if it's destroyed by your opponent's effect, it then goes back into your deck. And then Tsukiyomi, whenever it comes your end phase, he then bounces back to your hand. If you open the game turn 1, turn 2 with a Tsukiyomi play or a Madolche Mageline play, you may or may not have that monster in the graveyard, spellcaster monster in the graveyard, or in Tsukiyomi's case, even on the board, in order to get to resolve the tower effect. And like I said, guys, tower is extremely important to this deck. Tower really gets this deck rolling and really helps this deck gain its advantage. And I feel like tower, especially with there being less Ravines now, with Ravine being banned, dragons are not going to have just the simple, I'm going to play my field spell over your field spell. I really feel like tower is what's going to win Spellbook's games right now. Alright, so now I want to talk about what the ban list did to us. The ban restricted list, the only thing on that list that really affected Spellbooks on a major scale was taking Spellbook of Fate to 1. That's the only thing they did to this deck, really. As devastating as that may sound, it's really not, because you have so many ways to still search this card. I can play my Spellbook of Secrets search my masters. I can play my masters, copy my secrets effect to search this. So I have plenty of ways to search this out, not including my Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. So I also have that effect to search this out. There are still several effects to search this card. So putting this at 1 really doesn't hurt this deck as much as people think, because you have so many ways to search it out. And to be completely honest with you guys, the only change that I am making from the deck that I ended the format with my Spellbook deck that I ended the format with, is I'm dropping the second copy of Fate and adding the Magician of Faith that they gave us back. Now, what Magician of Faith can do for you is you can make a Secrets play turn 1, search for Tower, play Tower, and then set your Magician face down. If they do decide to attack and run it over, you can then add your secrets back to hand and get to search again. And then also she's small enough that when it does get ran over, you're going to gain the effect and it's going to go to the graveyard, and you're going to be able to have that spellcaster in the grave. So I feel like this card fits best in this deck than any other deck right now. However, it's extremely slow in what it does and how its effect works, the flip effect. It's extremely slow in how it works, so I don't really know that you're going to be able to really capitalize off this unless you're going to main deck the Tsukiyomis. If you were to play this card, flip it, add the card back from your grave, and then normal summon Tsukiyomi and flip this back face down, poke for the 1100, in phase, Tsukiyomi comes back, and then Magician of Faith is still set, so you're able to then let it get attacked and then add a second card to hand. Once you're able to start using the flip-flop chaos idea from way back when and really get to a situation where you can abuse this card because of those plays with Tsukiyomi, that's when I feel like the deck can really start to get rolling. But like I said before, guys, in the area that I'm in right now, I really feel like the Kaikus are the better play. Next, I want to talk about some cards that I feel like could be seeing some more play in this deck. A lot of people are backing up all of their plays, their Justice plays where they're being left with no back or with no monster on board, or their Temperance plays with a lot of trap cards. In fact, in my build right now, I believe I'm playing 7 trap cards. Ooh, I should have counted that before the video. I'm really not for sure, but I'm playing a lot of trap cards. However, if you would like to cut down some of your trap cards and put in your Mystical Space Typhoons and possibly add in Royal Decree, Royal Decree could be an extremely clutch card come this format, this January 1st format. Royal Decree, it looks like a lot of the decks that are going to be popular right now in in Fire Fist and in some other decks like that. I really feel like they're going to be a lot of back row heavy decks, and Royal Decree could possibly just shut all of those decks down and give you some major advantage come turn 1 or come game 1. And if not, it's a really good option for you to side deck into for games 2 and 3. Next, another card that kind of got cut from this deck this past format, but was extremely important to it the format before. Spellbook Starhall. Starhall gains the tokens, and it really pushes the attack up of your monsters to quite a bit. This is a card I could see coming back into this deck, but for right now, I don't really feel like this card really helps me out as much as I need, mainly because I'm okay with Kaiku's 1800 attack. If this is a situation where I feel like I have to start going with a different spellcaster monster, I may have to go back to the Starhalls just so I can put in monsters with spellcaster monsters with lower attack that I feel comfortable with, because then they'll get the attack bonus and I'll feel more comfortable with them in that situation. So most of this video I've spent talking about how busted I feel the Spellbook Tower can be. A card that I want to see you guys start trying out in your side decks, and a card that I feel like can be extremely disruptive to your opponent, and it will not hurt you very much at all. I really want you guys to start trying this out in your side decks if you're going to play Prophecy. Offerings to the Doomed. It's a quick play spell card. Destroy one monster on your opponent's side of the field. Skip your next draw phase. Now, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Way back when we played in a format with Yatagarasu and with Time Seal, and when Drop-Off was extremely popular. I lived through a time in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! When you would lose your draw phase and it was not good. You put you in a major losing situation, especially if they were able to put the Yata lock on you, where they're just going to attack, you lose your draw phase, it bounces back, summon an attack, you lose your draw phase. Really bad Yu-Gi-Ohs back then. Good Yu-Gi-Ohs, but if you were on the wrong end of it, it was bad Yu-Gi-Ohs. So Offering of the Doomed works in that same situation. I would rarely ever suggest that you try a card that's going to give up your draw phase. However, if you are capitalizing off of Tower, like I really hope you are able to, giving up your actual draw phase is not that big of a deal when Tower gives you the additional draw phase during your standby phase. It gives you the additional draw during your standby phase. So if you're able to capitalize off that additional draw, then losing your original draw phase is not nearly as devastating as what it really should be to a player. And with this being a quick play card, it can be extremely disruptive to your opponent because they make a... You're not going to see this very often because the card's gone to 1 now, but if they make a Debris Dragon play to grab a Trigon or whatever from the grave, a Card Trooper, whatever they want from the grave, to try to make a Black Rose play or whatever, you can then activate the Offerings to the Doom because it is a quick play on their turn, destroy one of their 2 monsters, leaving them in a situation where they've already used their normal summon and they're stuck with a somewhat useless monster on board. So there you go, guys. If you check below in the article, I'll have my full deck list down there, and you guys can check it out from there. This has been Matty's Daddy 12 talking about my Prophecy deck and where it is starting for this format and where it may end up. So I appreciate it, guys. Subscribe, comment down below, and show us how much you love us.